microphone I'm looking for. Oh, here it is. There it is. Right. I grabbed the wrong microphone. Let's do that again. CMPRadio.net, man. It's your boy, Uncle P, and I'm here at the Cultivating Mature Positivity Studios, right? And I'm doing the Cultivating Mature Positivity podcast. Check that out, right? Major shout out to our sponsors, Reworld, KC Electric, New Foundation Property Solutions, Northern Marketing and Design, the Boys and Girls Club of Chester, Pennsylvania, Pressure Inc., Essential Rides, Duo Taco, and Quan Knox Media. Again, these are sponsors of the radio station. I want to thank them for their belief in what we do here at the radio station and tell you to support their businesses as well, man. It's CMPRadio.net. Today I have the honor of interviewing again the receiver of Chester, Pennsylvania, Mr. Vijay Kapoor. How you doing, VJ?
I am doing well. Pierre, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. I am great. Yeah, so, how you been, right? Anything new happening in your life? You feel me?
Yeah, no, things are pretty good.
Okay.
This new position as of July 1st has been keeping me busy.
It has. You've become the targeted man in the city, right? This is not an interview to bash. We've done this before. This is an interview to get information, right? And this is for the viewing public to also be able to disseminate the information that they get and understand the process of it, right? Let's start at the beginning, right? Just real quick. Chester is in receivership.
Correct.
We filed for bankruptcy.
Correct.
Why did we file for bankruptcy?
Well, we filed for bankruptcy because, like anyone else or any person or any other company that filed for bankruptcy, is that we weren't able to pay our bills. And we needed to do that, and we needed to restructure so that we could have a bright future for current residents and future residents.
Filed for bankruptcy. What was the date we filed for bankruptcy?
November 10th of 2022.
November 10th of 2022. It is November 8th, 7th today?
Yes.
Today is the 7th, November 7th of 2025.
Yes.
So three and a couple days short of 3 full years of being in bankruptcy. Why was bankruptcy the only option for Chester, Pennsylvania?
Well, it's because of the financial issues that Chester's facing, and it's because of its revenues not being able to keep up with its expenses. It's the need to get a lot of the various different, we call them creditors in bankruptcy, around the table. So we've got a pretty significant pension issue here in Chester. We've got pretty significant retiree health care issues, funding issues in Chester. And we needed to get all the parties around the table so that we could start to have conversations that would actually be able to have meaningful change. We tried to do that through bankruptcy, through a mediation process, to get folks around the table and trying to reach a consensus agreement. We've been, although I can't talk specifically about what those conversations were like, I can tell you for some parties, they were positive and productive, and for some parties, less so.
Right. So with bankruptcy, let's stay there for like a couple seconds.
Sure.
When a person files for bankruptcy, right, they get to go in and they talk to their creditors and they get to say, I don't have enough money to pay this, I have enough money to pay that, this is all the money I have. What happens after bankruptcy for a person is one thing. Is it different for a community when they file for bankruptcy? Explain what can happen after bankruptcy is over, or how they get out of bankruptcy.
Right. So the thing with a community like a city, like the city of Chester, and as your viewers probably know, this is pretty rare for a community to file for bankruptcy. It often happens in the private sector world, but for a municipality or a city to file for bankruptcy, it's pretty rare. To get out of bankruptcy in Chapter 9, which is what municipalities are under, you have to file and get confirmed what's called a plan of adjustment. A plan of adjustment is essentially like your plan going forward that shows that your revenues and your expenses, are aligned, and that you're able to provide the services. What's different, of course, for a municipality is a municipality provides services to residents. Right, a company can go away. A company can go bankrupt and go away. Much different for a municipality, for a city. right? What happens to the services? What happens to the folks who live there? That makes a Chapter 9 bankruptcy very, very different. And it also is important for people who are in my role, who are helping lead this, to understand that, because the impacts that we have on bankruptcy not only impact the creditors, but most importantly, they impact the residents. What happened in Detroit and in other communities was bankruptcy judges realized that it's more than just about money. It's also about service delivery, right? We could still balance our budget in the city of Chester potentially, but you might have to cut services to such a low level that people aren't protected, right? And it's not just about balancing the budget; it's about providing an appropriate level of services for residents. So that's why, in terms of what we've been trying to do, we're focusing not only on the finance part of it, but also on the operational part. Because at the end of the day, what matters most to us is, what's the level of service that Chester residents and businesses are getting.
And what would you say is happening in bankruptcy? Are we able to negotiate some debts? Are we getting some debts down? Would you say that this is a good bankruptcy situation, or would you say Chester has a lot of more work to do?
Well, here's what I would say in terms of thinking about bankruptcy. So bankruptcy is only part of what's been going on here for receivership. What a primary focus we've been doing is working with the city and working with city staff and with elected officials on trying to improve operations. Right? Bankruptcy helps you restructure debt. It helps you kind of figure out the finances. But through bankruptcy, it's still the city that's delivering the services. Right, so you got to think about the bankruptcy and what we're working on with the city going on parallel tracks. They're going on at the same time. So I will say for the bankruptcy, it's going painfully slow, to be very honest with you. A lot of the issues that we're dealing with in bankruptcy have to do with monetization of assets that I know we'll talk about in a little bit, and that's been delayed. That's been unfortunately delayed. It's been delayed from our view improperly, and also by the judge who has fined some attorneys a significant amount of money because of that delay that, again, we can talk about. But we can only go as fast as the process goes in bankruptcy. And that's why a lot of our focus has been on dealing with, improved operations in the city. And that has been, I think, hopefully residents are starting to see impacts on that, positive impacts on that.
So recently there was an amendment or a motion to, I don't understand the information that was given. So explain what happened recently, and then we'll get into our question.
Sure. So let me tell you what I did, what we did. So as a receiver, as part of receivership, and this is not part of bankruptcy, think about the state stuff and the federal stuff going on parallel tracks. Right. Bankruptcy is a federal process. It's in the federal courts. Receivership by itself is a state process. It's with the state courts. Right. And so I talked about a plan of adjustment for bankruptcy. That's the ultimate goal there. In the state process, we have things called recovery plans. Okay. And recovery plan is kind of similar in concept. Basically, it's like saying, here's what, here's the direction we need to go. Mm-hmm. And the receiver proposes these recovery plans. He files them with the court, and then the court has to approve them. Okay. And if the court approves them, everybody has to follow them.
Everybody,
all the folks in the city. If it deals with an authority, right, it also has to deal with those folks in the authority also have to follow it.
Oh, okay. Right?
Okay. So I filed what's called a plan modification for the recovery plan. So years and years ago, in fact, on November 8th of 2022, we filed a pretty significant plan modification. That was the one recovery plan. And that went up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You may have remembered that one. That one had to do with powers and who's got power and all that. So, so what we did, and then you may have remembered I filed a plan modification regarding the Stormwater Authority, regarding the number of board members and salaries. So what we did recently was we filed a plan modification that related to the Chester Water Authority. Okay. CWA. And what that plan of modification did was it sought two things. One is it is asking the court to order CWA to provide certain information, financial information, that supports the Chester Water Authority's decision to raise their water rates by 14% coming January 1st. Okay, that's the first part. And then the second thing, and then we can talk about both. The second thing is what we did is we asked the court to change the composition of the Chester Water Authority Board from 9 members that are appointed by 3 that are appointed by the City of Chester, 3 that are appointed by Delaware County, and 3 that are appointed by Chester County, back to 5 board members, all appointed by the City of Chester. And the reason we did that is our view, and what we're asking the court to find, is that the law that was passed back in 2012, called Act 73, that changed the board composition of the Chester Water Authority, which had been for 90-some years 5 board members, all appointed by the City of Chester, to this 9-member. We are asking the court to find that law unconstitutional. And we can talk a little bit about why we think that's the case. But in terms of kind of overall what we're doing is a plan modification that's asking for 2 things. One is information, and the other thing is to restructure the Chester Water Authority Board, and define, as part of that, finding the provision that changed the board unconstitutional.
So let's start with the rate hike.
Yep.
Many Chester residents already face financial strain. How does this plan, or what you're proposing to the government, like, how does that help and protect us from additional burdens?
Sure. So I want to be clear first. The Chester Water Authority has the right to set the rates.
Right.
Set the rates. So I don't have that power to go in. Okay. And let me just say this: I'm not asking the court to change the rates. I'm not. What I'm trying to figure out is
why.
Why? Right.
Okay.
So when the Water Authority said they were going to raise the rates, they sent out like an emergency letter. Okay. Right. I don't know. You may have gotten it. They've sent out a follow-up thing. Basically saying to all their ratepayers that they were facing serious challenges.
Oh, that's crazy. I never even looked at this. It's been on the TV.
It's there, right?
And
Right, and so as part of it, right, they blamed the City of Chester and me for that rate increase. They claimed that they said they got a bond rating downgrade, which is kind of like getting your credit score reduced, and they said that was as a result of the bankruptcy. What they left out was that the rating agency also had concerns about their finances. Had concerns about, several years ago, them losing some pretty significant customers, having concerns about them having lower cash on hand. Lower cash on hand is kind of saying like you've got a lower amount in your checking account, right? So our concern, of course, like where I'm sitting here as the receiver, where we're seeking to monetize this asset, I'm concerned about the value of the water authority, right? So if you've got the chairperson of the board of the water authority using ratepayer dollars to send out letters to all ratepayers and saying that they're facing serious financial challenges, well, I'm obviously going to be concerned, right? So I want to know how severe those financial challenges are. I want to know what caused those challenges. And I also want to know what I can do within my power to address those challenges. Right?
That's your job, to come here and fix the financial strain on the city, on the community, right?
That's exactly right,
Okay.
right? And I'll note one other thing over here, which I will say bothered me, right? And was the way in which the City of Chester was, the light in which they were presented in those letters. It seemed to be a pretty clear attempt to blame the city and to have all the suburban ratepayers kind of gang up against the city, blaming the city for essentially saying that it's the city's fault that they've had to raise rates because they got a bond downgrade. And I don't think that's a complete story. And I think it's incredibly disrespectful to the city and disrespectful to the residents to, essentially, even for a public utility to use ratepayer dollars to say things like that.
Yeah, I'm reading it, and it says unpaid water bills for city hydrants and for closure that continue to burden ratepayers system-wide, right? As detailed in prior correspondence.
Right. So this was the second one. They had sent out a letter, kind of a letter before, and again, So as a receiver, just kind of taking that first part here, I want information about that, right? And again, I'm hopeful that the court will allow us to get that. And the information we requested, just to be clear, is information that that financial people use when evaluating rates. So it wasn't just information that I pulled out of the air. It was talking to an engineering company that does these types of rate studies and this type of analysis. So we're asking the Water Authority for those rates. Now, you guys may have remembered, when we first heard about that rate increase, I called for the Water Authority to have public meetings, right, to justify the rate hikes.
And they don't want to, or?
Well, the letter I got back pretty much said they didn't want to.
Why wouldn't they want to have public meetings to explain to the public exactly what's going on? I'm not trying to take anybody's side. I'm just sitting on the fence, right? I understand when y'all first came here, it was to fix the financial strain that was on the city, right? And open the doors to the receiver and come in here and understand what we can do better, right? We've had letters. We've talked about the corruption that was in the city of Chester, how things weren't moving correctly. I'm not blaming anyone, right? I'm not blaming the last mayor. I'm not blaming the mayor before him. It can go back to the inception of Chester, right? The way it was written in the charter and the things that happened and were allowed to continue to happen that has Chester where it is right now, right? So I just want that to be said. The receiver is not blaming anyone, right? He's just saying if you have a system over here that can be monetized and bring money into the city of Chester, which the city of Chester deserves and the city of Chester needs, why not go ahead? You're not trying to privatize the Water Authority.
That's
right?
correct.
You're trying to do what?
So we are trying to, and we use the term monetize, but effectively it's, our position is that this is an authority that the city of Chester created, and that under the Municipal Authorities Act, it has the ability to monetize, which is to be able to get money out of an authority that it created, just like any other community would in Pennsylvania. We are trying to do this in a way that minimizes the impact on ratepayers, because we are concerned about that. I'm concerned about ratepayers in Chester and concerned about ratepayers in the community here. And so, from our end, to go back to your question, Pierre, about why wouldn't the Water Authority want to do it? I don't know the answer to that, right? Because where I sit in my role, right, is I have a lot of scrutiny on me, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Here I am talking with you, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't know what questions you're going to ask me today.
Right.
We didn't go over them ahead of time.
We did not.
You're going to be able to ask me whatever question you want to ask me on. And I think you have a right to do that.
Right.
And I think as a public official, I think I have a responsibility to answer it as best as I can.
Servant leadership. Absolutely.
And so, if let me put it this way: if I were requiring the city of Chester to do a 14% tax increase, which, by the way, I'm not permitted to do under the law, but if I were, let's just say if I were, I would want to sit out here and explain and have a public meeting with people to explain to them why I needed to do that, right? And I would want to show them the financial issues that I had, and I would want to be honest with them and say, look, this is what we've tried to do here. In the meantime, I wouldn't necessarily blame anybody for that, but I would give them the reasons for that, right? And I would give the public the opportunity to ask me questions, right? Because they may not understand it. They won't. And so again, this is up to them. This is their decision, but it has been a pattern, I will say, dealing with the Water Authority over the last couple of years of trying to get information out there. I think it's one of the first things we did when Receiver Dowry took over as receiver is we required City Hall to put in cameras to actually live stream the council meetings, because they hadn't been done that. That hadn't been done before.
So that's something that's legal. You can live stream a council meeting.
Well, I mean, when I say live stream, it's the camera. So in City Hall,
a camera can be in the city council meeting. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying City Hall camera. I know where you're going. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't want to get in trouble.
They always say you can't record, you can't record, you can't record. They've been saying that. They've been saying that since I had the radio station, since I wanted the radio station to come through and do it. No, you're not allowed to do it. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm sorry.
No, and look, no, it's all right. And I don't know the answer to that question, right? But I will say, what what some of the first couple of steps that we took, and again, this is non-financial, but it's important, was to increase transparency. What it was requiring, to have these meetings recorded so people could watch them. It was to make sure that the agendas were published ahead of time. It was to make sure resolutions that were going to be talked about were attached to those agendas. It was to make sure that those agendas were done, in a way that people could understand them, right? And it's just you don't see the same sort of stuff over at the Water Authority.
No, you don't.
We're trying to find minutes on their website, and you can't find the minutes on their website. Like the Stormwater Authority has published minutes of their meetings on their website. I couldn't find it. Maybe they are, and I just wasn't able to find it. But I think the bigger point over here, without again pointing fingers and just really getting more to the heart of it, is I believe that if you are a public official and they are a public water authority, if you are going to be doing something like raising rates 14%, you owe it to the public to be absolutely transparent with them, to show them your books, right? And the stuff like this kind of stuff, like is this doesn't do it. To me, this is more about trying to shift
Blaming, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, I just on the first page, DCED or the receiver shows up like 5 times. Right. No, there's nothing in there about revenues, nothing in there about expenses, nothing in there about what was attempted to be done, to avoid it.
When you do that, when you send your letter, you're not speaking to the people of Chester. You're speaking to the other Chester Water Authority recipients, the customers. So let me know what other counties or other places other than Chester have Chester Water Authority water or pipes running through.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other communities, right? In a lot of suburban communities, a lot in Chester County. And just to again, just to put a fine point on this, because I do think this is important. And there's 2 things that again, I'm just going to be factual about this, right? And we'll let your listeners and viewers decide for themselves how they feel about this, right? So when in the first letter, and here I'm looking at the filing that we quoted this is in that first letter, they said that basically that one of the reason for why they had to raise these rates is over 80% of CWA's customers who live outside the city of Chester, who are to be affected by the city's actions, which are aimed at resolving the city's longstanding financial problem. So they talk about the 80% who lives on the outside of Chester. We're talking about the city's thing, and it's not sort of the first time. I mean, what was also done earlier this year when Crozier closed, right? Which of course the city had nothing to do with, right? And where city residents are actually the ones who are suffering the most, right, from it. CWA paid for a billboard that said, they closed our hospital, don't let them take our water. So this is what it said, two sentences. They closed our hospital, don't let them take our water.
And who's the they and the them that they're talking about?
That's exactly right.
And sometimes I feel like, Chester has had a bad moniker around its neck for a long time, right? But I know my city, right? I love my city, right? And my city loves back, right? We're family here. If someone is dealing with something, you see how we come together and we support each other, right? Minus all the things that happen that the news talks about, and I'm talking about the positive energy that is located here in Chester, Pennsylvania. It's like they want us to be the scapegoat. They want us to be the problem. 80% of their customers don't even come from Chester, so they're in more affluent, more well-to-do areas, right? They're getting good water. They're getting, and I say this, and I'm not saying it they cheap per services, but excellent services nonetheless. Aqua, American Water, they charge a little bit more for their water, right? And I lived in Eddystone, and I moved in after someone else, and they thought my water, no, that's his bill. He moved out. Like, find him. Don't bill me. Like, it's a new water bill here. But they didn't believe me. They cut my water off for that, right? I had to go to the state rep's office and talk to him and say, listen, I went to the mayor. I'm like, oh, this is not I didn't live here at this time, right? But they're not trying to hear that. So I think what's happening right now, right? And listen, I don't knock the employees of Chester Water Authority.
Sure.
Right? I want them to understand that we're not trying to take your jobs from you. We're not trying to get you fired. We just want what Chester deserves, right? And when we talk about what Chester deserves, then we can have a conversation about what we truly deserve as being the founding city of Chester Water Authority, right? And that's what you're trying to do.
I am, and Pierre, like that's. I mean, it's sort of a good segue if you don't mind me talking a little bit about kind of like history over here, right? So part of, and let me just take just kind of one step back, and I'll just say this is you know, writing. I wrote most of what we filed, less of the legal stuff. I worked very closely with the lawyers on this. You know, kind of going through the history, right, of the city and going through the history of the water authority. There's a lot of history that's in these documents. So it was founded in the I think it was around 1913, around that time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's later. Maybe I haven't seen 13 or 30. I do have it in here. But for decades and decades and decades, the city of Chester appointed all of its board members, 5 board members, all of it, right? And that changed in 2012 with legislation, right? And and we don't get into sort of all the politics of that in this filing, right? We're focusing really on the legal aspect. And what I found was, as I kind of went through the history of how this bill was passed, and I read the language of how the board was changed, it became pretty clear that this language that the legislature passed in 2012 only applied to the city of Chester and to the Chester Water Authority. Okay, it only applied to them, right? And we can talk about some of that language in a moment. But under Pennsylvania law, that's actually unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional because it's called special legislation. And so where all this came from was back in the 1800s and thereabouts. You used to have companies and people that would go and lobby the General Assembly for special bills that would only apply to them. So, for example, let's say Elon Musk lived in like Pennsylvania, right? He could go to the at that time, he could go to the General Assembly and say, pass a law that I don't have to pay any income tax. And it only applied to him, right? And obviously what that would mean is the General Assembly could favor people, right? And they could do something similar, you know, to punish somebody, right? So, you know, they would pass a law that says, you know, CMP radio isn't allowed to broadcast, right? Something like that, wow. Right? And that's called special legislation because it applied to only one entity. And so communities across the country passed constitutional amendments saying you're not allowed to have special legislation. So the General Assembly could regulate income tax, but it's got to apply
to other people.
It's got to apply to other people, and it's got to apply fairly to other people.
It's like the other side of a monopoly, right? You can't have a monopoly. You can't, right? I get
right. Similar things. Right, like it's based on the concept of like equal protection under the law. Right. Right. Is that similarly situated people or companies or cities should be treated the same. Okay. Similarly, right? And so so what you're not allowed to do is pass legislation that applies to that. So General Assemblies, like in legislatures, when sometimes they try to do this, right? They don't say this applies to the Chester Water Authority. They don't use the name. Right. They'll put in a lot of language, right? That if you read it seems like it applies to a lot of people. Right. But then when you get to it, you're like, wait a second. There's all these narrowing criteria, right? And at the end, you just end up with one place, right? And that's the case, you know, as far as we know, with the Chester Water Authority. And you know, the history of on this was that, again, for decades and decades, the city of Chester appointed all these board members. That changed in 2012. Right. It's not like the authority changed in 2012. They had always been providing services to communities outside of Chester. Right. It wasn't because that changed over there, right? So you know, there's the first kind of question is why has this happened in 2012? Why wasn't this happening prior to this, right? If the concern from the General Assembly, which is what they said, was representation of communities outside of Chester, outside of the incorporating city, well, You've been having that for decades. Like, why is it happening all of a sudden now? Right? And when you look at the actual legislation, this legislation, the bill, the vehicle by which this was passed for months and months and months, had nothing to do with board governance. It had everything to do with how authority spent its money. And that language that impacted the board governance, only to Chester, got put in 17 days before this thing got passed. So again, like we go through this in the filing, and I talked about this on an MFRAC in 2024, and we kind of highlighted it. But what was sort of fascinating, kind of most fascinating, about the language, and I just want to read the language. Do you mind, Pierre, if I just sort of read the language and this is not like when I read this, I don't want people to to basically kind of figure it, basically to. If you're confused after I read this, right, don't feel bad.
Yeah, put it in the chat. Ask the question, and he'll answer it.
So here's what the language is that was in this act that changed the composition of the CWA's board. So it says water authorities and sewer authorities. If a water or sewer authority incorporated by one municipality provides water or sewer services to residents in at least 2 counties, and has water or sewer projects in more than 2 counties, where the combined population of the served municipalities, excluding the incorporating municipality, is at least 5 times the population of the incorporating municipality, all of the following apply. And then after that, it goes into kind of changing the board, right? So that whole paragraph that I read is the criteria, that applies, right, to that type of authority. And if you look at that language, right, there's something that's sort of a key giveaway here to me, is if you start with the idea that the reason for that legislation was to provide representation to communities outside of the incorporating city, right, in this case, Chester. Right. Why do you have language in there that talks about water or sewer projects in more than 2 counties? So what a project is under the law is basically either a pumping station or a reservoir. It's kind of like infrastructure, right, but it's specific. It's not just a pipe. Right. Like you've already got language in there talking about providing services to residents in at least 2 counties, right? So why do you care where a reservoir is? Why do you care where a pumping station is? That's the first question, right? It kind of makes you wonder, like, well, why even include that in there, right? Seems kind of like weird language. The second thing, which is kind of more concerning when you read it, remember what I said. It said this applies to a water or sewer authority that provides services to residents in at least 2 counties, right? So at least 2 counties means two or more, right? And Chester Water Authority provides them in Delaware County and Chester County.
What about Lancaster County? We have a little bit in Lancaster?
Give me one sec.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead. No services to residents there.
Right.
But let's get to the next part, right? And has water or sewer projects in more than 2 counties. Okay. In more than 2 counties means 3 or more. Right. Doesn't mean 2. Right. It means 3 or more. More than 2. Yep. Right. And so the Chester Water Authority, although it only provides services in 2 counties, right, it has projects in 3 counties. Okay. And you know where they are? Delaware County, obviously, pumping stations. And then its reservoir, the Octorara Reservoir, right, is both in Chester County and in Lancaster County. Wow. So here's the crazy thing about it, right? What that means is, if you look at it from a lawyer's end, right? And it took me a little bit, like as I was going through this, I was like, wait a second, this, as a lawyer, you got to read every word.
Right, you have to read every
word.
Right.
Right. And so what it means is that for a water authority that only provides services to residents in 2 counties, it means it's got to have projects in 3 counties, right? So it means it's got to have a pumping station or a reservoir in a county where it doesn't provide service, right?
Yeah. I don't understand why.
Right. And so here's the crazy thing, and just to add more little craziness on this, if the Octorara Reservoir didn't go into Lancaster County and it was just like totally in Chester County, right, that language wouldn't apply. and Chester would have stayed appointing all 5 members of the board.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of the crazy thing, right? So just the only reason that this language applies to CWA in the city of Chester is because a reservoir goes into a county where they don't provide any services.
So I'm lost.
Sure, and you should be, right?
So we go into Lancaster. The reservoir goes into Lancaster County.
Yep,
But we don't provide any services to Lancaster County.
correct.
So we share that reservoir with another water company?
No,
or
it's just the water authority. CWA.
it's just the water authority's reservoir.
Yep. But it's in 3. So it means that you've got projects in 3 counties, right? And so again, if going back to the beginning of this, right? Like we're talking about special legislation, right? Because oftentimes when you do the court analysis, right? You've got to look at it to see if other communities could come in as well, right? So you could pass a law, and maybe it only applies to one in the beginning, but other communities can come in, right? That's some of the analysis that's done. Now, if it just applies to one, there's courts are going to really scrutinize that because it's kind of like, all right,
what you trying to do?
Kind of what's up with that,
right.
But again, we started with the question of like, if your concern is resident representation, all you should be really caring about is where the residents are located, right? That's what you should be caring about, not necessarily the where the reservoir is located, right? And especially something like this, right? Because you would expect an authority that's providing services in 2 counties to have all of its like pumping stations and reservoirs in those 2 counties. Why would they have it in a 3rd county? Why would you expect that to have happen?
I don't know.
Unless what you're doing, right, is you are developing a criteria, right, that on its face, when I read it, it didn't say the Chester Water Authority, right? Impacted the city. And that's sort of the crazy thing. And I'll repeat it one more time, Pierre, because this is to me like kind of one of the key tells here is that if, right, the Octorara Reservoir didn't go into Lancaster County and was totally in Chester County, and we keep the same residents, that it's getting services for, this language wouldn't apply. At all. And nothing would have changed.
So do you think I don't even get into that. 2012 is when this amendment hit, Act 73.
Correct.
Right? What was going on in 2012, and who was the person that brought this language forward?
Well, again, I mean, some of this, I think, for the purposes of our filing, we didn't get into kind of all the specifics of that. I mean, the fact of the matter was that the main sponsor of this was the former mayor of Chester,
Dominic Pileggi?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, Pileggi.
And there were co-sponsors as well.
I bet it were. I bet there were.
But
okay. All right, Pileggi. Nice. This 2012. This is after Barack Obama came through and won the election, and the Democrats took over. Okay, all right, I get it. I'm starting to see some things here. Right. Okay. So they have 9 members now.
Yes, there are 9 members. The city only appoints 3. Delaware County appoints 3, and Chester County appoints 3.
Why not Lancaster County appointed?
Well, because
why would Delaware County appoint if Chester's appointing?
It's the way it's set up. So it's basically the counties in which the service. So again, it's the way this is written.
Right.
So it's the incorporating municipality plus any municipality that to which services are provided. So this is interesting too, right? So if you think about it, right, if you look at the law, there's actually no cutoff for the number of residences. So if, for example, just hypothetically, if the water authority of CWA started to provide services to, let's say, 2 residents in Lancaster County, I mean, based on the language, it looks like there's an argument that Lancaster County would then be able to appoint 3 members to the board. There's not like a floor. There's not like a cutoff, right? So think about that. So City of Chester has 34,000 residents, right? All of whom are under the water authority, CWA. Just that's how it is. Some communities have partial, right? Some communities have some CWA and some of the others. But you look at that as well and say, like, well, is that fair? Like, there's no cutoff there in terms of the number of people, right? So Chester County, right, may have, may even have, I don't know how many ratepayers they have, but you could have a situation where a county has much fewer residents served than the incorporating municipality, right? But they would still get the same representation as that incorporating municipality. And then there was, there's an argument sometimes you may hear, right, that we expect to hear. So we do have a hearing on this matter in front of Judge Wolf of the Commonwealth Court. That's happening on December 1st. Not televised or not live streamed. It's going to be in downtown Philadelphia, the same location.
You want to come back and talk about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I would be more than happy to. More than happy to do that.
Absolutely.
This is going to be. I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting argument. Because again, the one of the arguments that someone may make is, okay, well, yeah, this only applies to the CWA now, but there could be a community in the future where this goes into. And I want to take you through this hypothetical, right? So let's say you're a water system that meets, I don't know, 3 out of the 4 criteria, right? You've got, you're incorporated by one municipality, you provide services in more than 2 counties, that you've grown, so it's 5 times, you're providing 5 times population, 5 times your population, but you don't have projects in in more than in 3 or more counties, right? Say you have them 2, right? So if you're a community, right, that or an authority, why on earth would you and you're existing right now? Why on earth would you expand so that you end up losing board membership, right? So could you think about that right now? So let's say you're a water authority, right? And you're providing services to a community, to 200,000 people, right? And you provide these water services to a couple different counties, and it's a single, you're a single incorporated. So you meet all but the project's criteria, right? And for 75 years, right, or 80 years or whatever, you've been appointing all 5 members of the board, right? You're the community. Why on earth would you allow the authority to expand in a way that you would lose 2 members and lose the full appointment of the system?
Who can appoint members of the board? When was the 5? Who had authority to appoint members of the board? Was it the city of Chester itself, or the mayor, or?
So it's the governing body of the municipality and of the county. So what that meant is, at the time in 2012, that was Chester City Council, appointed 3, Delaware County Council at that time appointed 3, and Chester County Commissioners also appointed 3.
So when was it just 5 members?
It was 5 members prior to 2012. Yep.
Right. Okay, so prior to that, the appointments came from the same people, Chester County?
No. Prior to 2012, prior to it changing, it was all from the city of Chester.
All from the city of Chester.
5 members, all from the
5
city of
members
Chester.
from the city of Chester.
Yep, that was it.
Why wouldn't we do that and let's just add a pumping station over here? You feel me? We just say it's located here, or it's located right on the side or on the border. You feel me? And now we can go ahead and take some.
Yeah, so it's kind of the other way, Pierre. It would be if the Octorara Reservoir was completely within Chester County. So right, I mean, if you read this language, right, and you don't find it unconstitutional, that's like,
it's crazy.
You're boxed in as a city. You're boxed in, right? And just the other weird thing that I'll throw out here, right, which makes it different for the city of Chester, is that under the Municipal Authorities Act, and those of you who have been following the stormwater stuff will remember this, is for every other authority, whether you're water, sewer, et cetera, anything that you do that's incorporated on the Municipal Authorities Act, the way that the that your terms work for board members is they're staggered terms. So at the beginning, what happens is you appoint someone for 5 years, then someone for 4, someone from 3, someone for 2. So each year, what happens is someone rolls off the board, and you have to reappoint. You can reappoint the same person or whatever, right?
You can reappoint the same person?
You could.
Okay.
But what happens is the governing body, whatever it is, has the ability to appoint somebody new.
Okay.
They have that ability, right? What was different though that happened to Chester, the Chester Water Authority, by the same legislation was they instead of having the staggered 5 years, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they made everybody 5 years. So it locked those people in for 5 years. So if you're looking at this from an electoral perspective, right? Elections happen every 4 years, right? So if you say everybody is for 5 years, you've locked them in, right? You've locked them in through the next election cycle, and also putting aside the fact that no other authority
does it like that.
No other authority under the MAA, Municipal Authorities Act, does it like that, right? And so, you end up having everybody up at the same time, which the purpose of having the staggered board is first so that like when you move people off the board, you keep people who are on there that have some experience, right? That understand it, so you don't have 3 brand new people coming in.
Absolutely.
And it also allows, if there's a new governing body, right, if there's new members of the city council, new members of the county council, to appoint who they think should be representing the community on their county. And so it's I hate to sort of laugh about it, right, because it is obviously very serious, but I've never seen anything like this.
You're trying to protect, you think things are falling apart, you're trying to protect yourself or protect your grouping or protect whatever's happening, right? It's sad, right, that it had to go that way, and
but it's also but fundamentally it's also not fair.
It's not.
So at the end of the day,
we can't talk about what's fair, right? Coming from this city, right? We can't talk about what's fair. We got a school district that doesn't receive its funds, right? We have no hospital, right? We have children growing up and we have a police station that doesn't believe in community policing, right? We have so many things that are not fair that it's just another thing that's not fair, and no one will ever know.
And what was kind of so here's the thing. So now people are going to know, right?
Right.
Regardless of what happened, this filing's on right. This is a public document, right? And I think we've talked about the history over here pretty strong. What I think is a little bit frustrating on my part, as I've watched this, right, and as I've gotten the attacks, and I don't mind them. It's part of my job. That's why it's why I sit in the chair. It's what I do.
It comes with it.
Is that as soon as Chester stands up for its rights, it gets blamed, right?
Right.
Because it's the them.
Right.
It's the who's the they. Right?
Yeah.
And so the minute you do so everyone else can stand up for their rights. Right? But the minute Chester does it,
who are we? This is the problem. Who are we? And as long as we're divided, we're easily conquered. And I tell people that all the time, right? If we don't stand together, we're not supporting each other, we don't understand that unity makes strength, we'll continue to be victimized. We'll continue to not have enough services to get done what we need to get done in our community, right? And then they'll go over there and play mind games and shuffle some things on the board and look, oh, this is beautiful. Look at this. It's like, in 2012, you basically took power away from the city that built Chester Water Authority and gave it and spread it out amongst your people.
But I'll say this, and again, just to kind of shift a little bit, I don't know where you are on this, Pierre, but I'm seeing in conversations you're having with people in the community, right? One is you're starting to see, and there have been groups out there who've been working for years on this, right?
Absolutely.
Making a change. A lot of folks out there are doing a lot of hard work on this for a long period of time, right? I think you're starting to see people understand it.
Absolutely.
Right? At least I sort of feel that way. And look, I'm a short timer here,
right?
I didn't grow up here.
If you feel that way from when you first got here, and you see how people are being receptive and people are coming to you and talking to you and saying, I didn't know this. Oh, wow, I didn't even know. And now you're seeing how they're moving. You understand that all you have to do is give people information. You have to communicate what they need to understand. Sometimes you got to tell it to them. Sometimes you got to talk to them. Sometimes you got to come through on a podcast. Sometimes you got to be out there in the community, right? Holding these meetings. Because, again, they're doing things in the back door and behind a curtain, and we need transparency. We need to be able to see what's happening back there. But they're so used to putting that veil up, and no one's asking any questions. No one's asking for transparency. No one's asking for accountability, and that's why the radio station is here.
No,
right?
it's great, and you need that, right? And it is making a difference, I
Right.
think. Yeah, this took a little while, but it's seeing the light of day now,
Right.
right? And again, I'll say this: like I read you that language over here, right? That got passed in 17 days,
Right.
just
No
during
problem.
during budget time.
No problem.
No public hearings, no public debate. There was no meeting in city council in Chester, saying, "Hey, this is what we want to pass over here." And I honestly, I don't know how you read that language and say that what this is rationally related
Who said anybody read it?
to well, of course, going to read it, right? And other folks may read it, right? Folks are reading it now, right? They're reading
It
it now.
doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I'm cool. I vote on it. No problem. Right. And the people that it does affect, they don't have any representation.
Right, and you think about that language over there, like you're not going to know that applies, but again, we've pointed it out now, right? We've talked about it, and it's out there now,
Right.
right? And again, we're getting, I'm getting attacked,
Right.
and that's fine. Like I don't mind getting attacked for something like this.
No, I think the city of Chester is being attacked the way it always is, right? And this is why we need to stand together. This is why we need to ask questions. This is why we need to walk into meetings and show up. School board, city council, ask questions, because if we don't ask questions, things get done in the dark.
It's
and,
true.
and they come back to bite us. Like, you didn't know this was going on. You didn't know that happened. You didn't know. Like, no, I didn't know. I never knew. I always thought it was just operating the way it was operating, and it was cool. And I never had a problem with 3, 3, and 3, because it's the 3 counties or the 3 places where the water authority. But now you understand that you wrote something that took the power away from the city of Chester, right, when it was due. And then now I get why Thaddeus wanted to sell it. Now I get why Thaddeus was upset, right? But still, understand, was that the way it was supposed to go down? Were you trying to sell it to Aqua so Aqua could come in here and raise rates 50%, 75% of what we're already paying? And people, we live on like basic income, right? We're nobody in the city is a millionaire, right? So I
But
don't know.
but here's the thing too, and you're talking about kind of holding people accountable,
Right.
or looking for representation, right?
Absolutely.
The city of Chester does have 3 members on the water authority
Right.
board.
Who are those 3 members?
Olivia Smith,
Mhm.
John Shelton, and I'm forgetting the third. But Chester City, but Chester has 3 representatives,
Right.
right? I don't know if they're okay with
Right.
this.
Are these paid positions?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to
If
that.
Stormwater Authority was paid,
They're not paid now.
they're not paid now.
No, they're not.
Right.
But
They took that money from them people, man.
But I guess, but the point I'm trying to make right now.
Right,
Look, I mean,
right.
the point I'm trying to make right now is if you're talking about, look, this question about monetization, I understand not everyone's going to agree. Like I get that, right? Everybody gets that, right? What we're trying to figure out is how we can do this in good faith. And what we've seen on the water authority's end, particularly in bankruptcy court. So we started this conversation about why is this taking so long. You didn't ask me that, but I know it was implied. Is that we are dealing with litigation over litigation over litigation in the bankruptcy court. It's delay, 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 delay. It is costing people a lot of money. It is costing ratepayers a lot of money, and that's again, that's a legitimate question here. Like if you're saying the rates of going up 14%, right? We've been very transparent about how much this is costing us. Like our contracts are out in the press all the time, right? My compensation gets talked about in the press almost all the time. We have not seen one document from the Chester Water Authority about how much this is costing them. Nothing, right? And that's a public authority, right? And again, they've got a right to their legal strategy. That is their right to do it. But you've got to be transparent about how much this is costing, right? Is their cash on hand low because they've been spending more money on legal fees?
Absolutely.
Well, how much?
That's common sense.
Right? And
These lawyers are making they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money, bro. Like, you're talking about like almost $10-12 million.
Again, that's the question. So we don't know how much they are, right? And so that is another thing again that you want transparency around. And again, we're going to be clear about kind of what it's costing us. We don't want to be litigating frivolous things in bankruptcy court. We just don't. We don't. We don't.
So I got the 9 members.
Okay.
Right? 3 from Chester County, 3 from Delaware County, and 3 from Chester, the city of Chester.
Yep.
Noel Brandon, John Shelton Sr., Leonard S. Rivera, J. Rivera, Olivia Smith, Donald Hurford, Alyssa
Mahalik.
Mahalik,
Yeah.
Eric Walshberger, Nicole Whitaker, and Lola Williams. I don't know exactly who's from where.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Shelton, and Ms. Smith are from Chester. Yep.
Okay, right. So, but that could be an all 5-member board from the city of Chester. And listen, I understand, I get it, right? You know, the Republican, the blue, the red, right? They just fight over things, and this was an ownership act, and the founding year for the Chester Water Authority is 1939.
That's right. Yep.
1939.
Yep.
And man, how does restoring the city's appointment power improve accountability and governance compared to the current model?
Yeah. So what I would say is this. I mean, in terms of this. I mean, one is like it's important because it's important to do this because special legislation
Right.
that is unconstitutional should not be allowed to stand.
Right?
Period.
Okay.
Right. So if this could be done to the Chester Water Authority here in Chester, this could be done to any authority.
Any authority.
You know, in the state. And again, like this is something that an incorporating municipality has the rights to do. Right. And that's part of what it means, right, in government. You know, if you're there's no test out there about about expanding the board based on sort of any other reason. So you know, what I would also say too is just to be clear on this, it's not just the appointments to the board. The Water Authority has been relying on this language to argue that the city cannot exercise its rights under other parts
Right.
of the Municipal Authorities Act, right? So, you know, that's another issue that that comes here, right? You know, there's very much a question about ownership, and that's also kind of intertwined here with with this language.
And I appreciate you stopping through.
Sure.
I appreciate you dropping some knowledge, dropping some gems. This is important information. A lot of people feel as though the receiver is just coming in to cause trouble, right? And sell the water authority. That's not your plan, right? Let them know what your plan is for Chester Water Authority and how do you think that can benefit Chester, and give us cash
Sure.
to remain
Sure.
out in the black.
So I mean, what we are seeking to do, what Michael Dowry was seeking to do, and what I'm seeking to do, is what any other community in Pennsylvania would be allowed to do with respect to an authority, and that is to monetize the authority, but to do so in a way where it remains publicly owned. And any other entity out there, many communities have done this. The city of Coatesville has done it. The city of Allentown has done it. The city of Scranton has done it in different ways, right? They may have decided to go a privatization route. Some have decided to do that. Some have decided, you know, to remain in public hands. I have not changed my view that this water system and all the water assets that the city of Chester has must remain publicly owned. I'm concerned about rate increases, and I think people are aware of that, right? That is where I stand. That has not changed. That has been where we have been since day one. If either Michael Dowry or I had wanted to privatize the water system, we would have allowed the city back in the day to sign the agreement with Aqua to sell the assets. And in fact, it was the receiver that prevented the city from doing so. So, again, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is find a win-win solution that helps the city, that keeps the water authority in public hands, and again, allows the city to exercise the same rights that any other community in the Commonwealth, similarly situated, has the right to do. you know, and again, at the end of the day, I think this is a question of fundamental fairness. Just absolutely is.
They don't give us fairness, right? And sometimes you like you gotta demand it. And this is what you're demanding right now. You're asking for accountability with the money. You're asking for accountability with what happened in the past. How can residents stay informed about the developments and the recovery process?
So a couple of things to do. One is our Facebook page is a pretty good resource. Most importantly, I think we do these MFRAC meetings the second Tuesday and the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, where we will do an update, you know, with the committee, usually on specific matters. This is clearly one that's pretty important. We've recorded all those MFRACs. Those are live streamed and are recorded. There is the city's, the receiver's website, which is chesterreceivership.com. You know, we also have an email list that I think you can sign up for on our website. We do send out periodic updates, and you know, I would also just, you know, put a plug out there. I am happy to talk to groups.
Right.
I'm happy to come out. I'm happy to answer tough questions. I think it's part of my responsibility. I enjoy doing it. And if there's other groups out there who are watching this and want to have me come out and talk, you know, if we're able to make it work, I would be more than happy to do it. You know, I'm very proud of the work that city staff, that my staff, that city elected officials, and that residents have been doing in Chester. It is a long haul. Like, it's not easy. Folks get that over here, but on December 1st, I will be required to submit an update to the Commonwealth Court regarding the status of the receivership.
So you got two things going on December 1st.
I do.
Right,
I do.
right,
Didn't intend for that,
Right,
but that's what's going on.
Okay.
So I will be submitting that on December 1st as well, which is required by the court, and that will have an opportunity to kind of talk about some of the progress that's been made, and again, I'm happy to come back and talk about some of that. But it really is the basic services that we've been focused on. That residents deserve, and a lot of that is not glamorous, right?
No, it's not.
It's going to meetings and making sure things have been done,
Right.
making sure things have been followed up on,
Accountability.
and again, I'm incredibly proud of city staff. I do want the public to know that
Absolutely.
folks are working very hard in the
Yes.
city.
Yes.
I was just telling on a personal level, we have full day meetings on Thursday with each department. I personally attend those. I sit there with the mayor. I sit there with the city's chief of staff, Thomas Moore. I go to the department meetings in the morning. I report out like everybody else, like every other department head. And again,
Shout out to Thomas Moore, man.
yes,
He's a good dude.
absolutely.
He's a good dude. He's a good
Absolutely
dude.
is.
Right.
Absolutely. It's his second stint.
Right. It is. It is.
Second
It
stint.
is.
Cares deeply about the city.
He does. He
really
does. He does. And I remember when he used to, when we used to bump into each other more often than we do now. He always used to tell me, you know, the things that needed to change in the community, how leadership needed to be accountable to their city and to hold leadership accountable. How to do that, right? And he's like, the way you're doing it right now is good. You're asking questions. You're asking for them to step up. You're asking for transparency. You're asking for accountability, right? And that's how you get your leadership to notice that the community cares. But the community has to support you when you do this, P. The community has to get behind you. And whoever's asking for accountability, like I said, I don't have to be the person to do it, right? There are tons of people in our community that have mouths that understand things differently than I do, right?
And I will say this. I mean, the important thing on doing that, because it's a platform, right, is to make sure you have the facts right.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, even as a receiver, sometimes something will happen in the city, and I don't think it's one thing.
Right. And
right?
It's a whole nother thing.
It is, right? And so I
sometimes you got to wait. You got to wait for the whole thing to
that's
come
exactly right. I mean, I'll open my mouth probably sooner than I should many times.
Right.
And I've learned with Chester, like, you can't do that. So you really want to be, I mean, again, this is sort of to everybody out there who's looking at it. It may look one way, but but again,
Have
we're
some patience.
we need to be clear about the facts. There's nothing wrong with demanding the facts.
No, nothing.
Nothing wrong with demanding the facts.
Nothing. And reporting them as well.
Absolutely.
Not reporting hearsay, not reporting gossip, right?
Right.
Reporting the facts. So that's why I try to get people to come in and do interviews that have the facts. I don't have all the facts. I'm a constituent. I'm in this community, and I'm living my life, right? It's not my job to know everything, but for the people that have the knowledge, the people that are in these rooms, come and share this information with your community to educate them, right? Because it's too much happens in our community without good knowledge, with believing what somebody else said, and that's not how things work. That's not how things move. So, I thank you for coming through. I have two more questions, and then I'll let you go. Right? If the court sides with your filing, right, what would be the immediate next steps for the Chester Water Authority?
Well, so if the courts, what would likely happen is CWA would appeal.
Right.
So, to be very straight, right? I think that I think you're going to see an appeal one way, and I know it takes some time, and I know this is frustrating for folks. What is interesting under the plan modification is that the court may hold a hearing within 30 days, which is why it's holding it on December 1st. Right. And it's also, according to the statute, required to render a decision within 60 days of the filing, which would be the end of the year. So at least that's kind of moving. Look, I get folks are tired of litigation. I'm tired of litigation too, right? And there's nothing here that could stop us from reaching an agreement. There's nothing here stopping us from reaching an agreement, right? CWA's approach seems to be to litigate the heck out of this thing and just continue to do it, right? I'm willing to try and figure out a way forward. I really am. Right, because that saves us time, that saves us money, and then we become the people who control our own destiny.
So would you say like they're trying to bankrupt themselves to even be like, oh look, we don't even have any money left, so you might as well sell us the Aqua. We can't even do anything.
I mean, I think so. So again, let's go back to this language, right? So and again, I think it'd be interesting if they actually came on the show.
Right.
First off, you should have somebody on the show. Someone should actually be on there.
Nobody from the opposition. I'm not going to say opposition.
No, but they should be. Look, I'd be happy to go on. Someone who's whatever.
No, they don't want that. They already don't want to give us a public hearing. They don't want to talk. They don't want to sit here and have to defend their actions, right? And I don't know if their actions are crooked. I'm not accusing anybody of any crooked actions. I'm just saying, why don't we come to an agreement? Why all the you paying for millions of dollars in lawyer fees to keep fighting something that you already know was wrong, unconstitutional. So, no, why would you even appeal that? If the court found it that it was unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. Why would you appeal it?
Yeah, and I guess the point that you're making, right, which I think is an important one, especially for a public entity, is what is it you don't want people to know, right? That's the question. What is it you don't want people to know? If you're fighting about this,
what's happening right now with Trump and everything, the things that he don't want nobody to know, the Epstein files, he hiding everything. He's like, come on, man. But I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Sure. That's just me.
No, and I don't mean to accuse. I don't mean to suggest anything there. But what I'm saying is there is no reason not to, especially on the financial aspect, talk about it, because we're not asking for confidential information. We're not asking for anything along those lines, and again, that is up to the authority to decide how they want to handle it. But they are a public authority, right? And they are subject to the same rules that all other public authorities are, apparently, except for this one provision that talks about the board composition.
I thank you. I thank
Absolutely.
you for your availability.
Sure.
And it's always funny when we cut the camera off and we have a conversation, right? You always put me right where I need to be, so I appreciate that.
Always.
And like I said, I guess I'll see you a little bit after December 1st, and we'll talk about what happened. Chester City, man. An interview with Vijay Kapoor, the receiver of Chester, Pennsylvania. Listen, his job is not easy, right? To come in here and move back the veil of what's been in front of us for years, right? Give support, right? Help him out. Ask questions. And then take those questions and those answers to the other side and ask the same question. Just don't believe what you hear, right? For everyone that received this, the rate increase. Listen, it's everything goes up. I understand that, right? Loaf of bread used to be a quarter, about 3.59 now, or 4.59, right? It's expensive. Things go up. Inflation, cost prices skyrocket, right? No, we're not receiving more money on our paychecks, right? But still, things go up. Have patience, have understanding, and question the people that are in charge of your community, the authorities, the go to these meetings, talk to these people, right? We have to start showing up and showing out, right? This has been another episode of the Cultivating Mature Positivity Podcast. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I just thank you very much for all you all are doing, and look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank everybody for viewing. Share this. Um, Solicitors are getting fat pockets. Lawyers are getting fat pockets. Everybody's getting paid off of this, and we're suffering, right? So we can't continue to allow the suffering to happen. So hopefully everything happens on December 1st that needs to happen. Again, just come to the table. Like come to the table. Stop mudslinging. Stop throwing things, and we'll see what happens, man. CMPRadio.net, man. It's your boy Uncle P, man. I want y'all to have a great day on purpose. Live with purpose. And remember, I love you on purpose. Peace.